So in this video, we are going to talk about properties. So this video does not have a lot of mathematical computation in it. It's more so about writing and identifying. And so the video is going to go maybe a little faster than you can write. So make sure that you use your pause button as often as you need to. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to look at some properties. We're going to use these properties a lot going forward in our expressions unit. We're going to do a lot of definitions and a lot of examples. So make sure that what you're writing down is very clear to you and that you ask me any questions that you have in class. All right, so the first property that we're going to talk about is something called the associative property. We like to think about this as the grouping property. We think about this as keeping people together in groups, okay? You see this property used a lot with parentheses. So the definition of the associative property is, first of all, you can only use it when you're adding or when you are multiplying. Okay, and it means that you can group any of the numbers together in any sort of order, you can group any of the numbers together. Let me not use the word order. Okay, so for example here, I have the number 17, 2, and 9 on this side of the equal sign here. Okay, now over here, I have the numbers 17, 2, and 9. They're in the exact same order on this side of the equal sign and on this side of the equal sign. But what you will notice, and let me switch colors here, is that over here there's parentheses around the 17 plus 2, and over here there's parentheses around the 2 plus 9. The numbers are in the same exact order, but they are being grouped differently within the parentheses. There's a plus sign in between each number. They're just being grouped differently. Okay, now same thing for the next example here. So here's my equal sign. This time though I'm using multiplication. So again, there's a multiplication sign in between each number. I have a 12, a 2, and a 4. A 12, a 2, and a 4. Same order, but they are being grouped differently. So here I'm grouping the 12 and the 2, and here I'm grouping the 2 and the 4. Okay, last example, here's my equal sign. Now here I'm adding some variables in, but it works the same way. I have K, 9, and J. Same order on the other side, K, 9, and J, all right? But I'm grouping them differently. Here I'm grouping K and 9, here I'm grouping 9 and J. What happens is, and the point of the associative property is it says that no matter how you group it on each side of that equal sign, you're going to end up with the same answer, okay? So for example, over here, 17 plus 2 is 19. And 19 plus 9 is going to be 28, okay? Over here, order of operations tells you do parentheses first. 2 plus 9 is 11. 17 plus 11 is 28. You end up with the same thing on both sides of the equal sign. Now, an important thing to note is this note right here. The associative property does not work for subtraction, and it does not work for division. Okay, only for adding and multiplying. Okay, all right, let's take a look at the commutative property. So the commutative property we also call the ordering property. Okay, you usually don't see parentheses with the ordering property or the commutative property. So the definition says, simply enough, you can add, so again we have adding, or you can multiply the numbers in any order that you want, okay, on both sides of the equal sign. So for example, here's our equal sign. Here I have 18 plus 9, but on the other side, all I did is I flipped the order. I do 9 plus 18. It gives me the same result. 18 plus 9 is going to be 27, and 9 plus 18 is also 27. If I look over here at number 2, here's my equal sign. 15 times 2 is the same thing as 2 times 15, because 15 times 2 is 30, and 2 times 15 is 30. It's the same thing. I can also use it with variables. A plus C is the same exact thing as C plus A. Likewise, I can also do it with variables with multiplication. Again, here's my equal sign. D times E, because remember they're next door to each other, that means multiplication. D times E is the same thing as E times D. Now, The same thing as the associative property. This does not work for subtraction or for division, okay? Does not work for subtraction or division, only for addition and for multiplication. And the reason why, if you're trying to figure out why, is simply enough because you can switch the order around for adding. So like, 3 plus 2 is the same thing as 2 plus 3, or 2 times 3 is the same thing as 3 times 2. But with subtraction, 8 minus 7 is different than 7 minus 8. You'll end up with a negative number, and 10 divided by 2 is different than 2 divided by 10. Sometimes you'll end up with a decimal. So there is a big difference. Okay, distributive property is one that we're going to focus on a lot. In fact, we're going to dedicate like 3 or 4 different days to it in the next couple of weeks. So distributive is very important, and it has to do with multiplying. Okay, so with distributive property, you're going to take the number on the outside of the parentheses, and you're going to multiply it to each term, and that's a word you should know, each term on the inside of the parentheses. And we're going to talk about this more so in the coming days. But essentially what happens is you take 6 and you multiply it times the n, so you get 6 times n, okay? And then you also multiply it times the 4, so 6 times 4. So you get 6 times n plus 6 times 4. So you end up with 6n plus 24, because 6 times 4 is 24. All right? Then we have the additive identity. The additive identity is fairly simple. The additive identity is something that you've known since elementary school. And the additive identity says that the sum, which means the answer to an addition problem, the sum of any number and 0 is itself. So 0 plus 4 is 4, 165 plus 0 is 165, and then you can use it with variables too. N plus 0 is going to equal n, because anything plus 0 is itself. We also have something called the multiplicative identity, which is a lot like the additive identity, except instead of 0, we use 1. So it says that the product, and remember product is the answer to a multiplication problem, the product of any number and 1 is itself. So 5 times 1 is 5, 3 times 1 is 3, and then we can also use letters or variables. M times 1 is m. Anything times 1 is itself, basically. Alright, so we have a little game here that we're going to play. It's a sorting game where we have some expressions down below, and we are going to sort them into the proper property column. Okay? So I'm going to start off with some easier ones first, and then we will get a little harder. So here we have 61 plus 0 equals 61. So that is going to be the additive identity, okay, because anything plus 0 is itself. Alright, here I have, oh, I thought I had it. Alright, negative, and don't let the negative scare you, negative 98 times 1, remember that times 1, equals negative 98. That's going to be the multiplicative identity, okay, because anything times 1 is itself. Alright, let's take a look at this guy here. Don't let the letters scare you. M times A times P equals P times M times A. Now I know there's parentheses there, but ask yourself what changed, okay? Did the groupings change? Did the orders change? Was something being multiplied? It's actually the order of the letters that changed, so it's going to be commutative, okay? Because it went M-A-P and then it went P-M-A. So it was the orders of the letters that changed. Okay, let's take a look at this one here. So 3 times n equals n times 3. So what happened? The order changed. We switched the order around, so that's also commutative. Okay, let's take a look at this one here. Oops, maybe. Okay, so here we have 6 parentheses j times 9 equals 6j times 54. So in this one, the 6 was being distributed to the j and to the 9. So this is a distributive property one. Okay? Let's take a look at this one. R plus G equals G plus R. So what happened here? The order was being switched around. So the ordering one is commutative. Okay? Let's take a look at this guy here. Parentheses a plus 3, close parentheses, plus b equals a plus, open parentheses, 3 plus b. So what happened here? Did the order change or did the groupings change? The groupings changed, so that's going to be associative. All right, let's take a look at this one. 4 times h times 6 equals 6 times 4 times h. What changed? The order changed, so that's going to be commutative. Okay, 0 plus negative 15 equals negative 15. Anything plus 0 is itself, so that's going to be the additive property, additive identity, I'm sorry. Okay, what about this one? 37 equals 0 plus 37. That's again the additive identity. Anything plus 0 is itself. Let's take a look at this one. Parentheses h times 2, close parentheses, times 6 equals h times, parentheses, 2 times 6. Now look carefully. h2, 6, h2, 6. The order did not change, just the grouping of the parentheses changed. So that's going to be associative property. Okay, so here we have 9 parentheses a plus 5 equals 9a plus 45. So here the 9 was being distributed to the a, and the 9 was being distributed to the 5. 9 times 5 is 45, so that's distributive. All right, let's take a look at this one. 25 equals 1 times 25. Anything times 1 is itself. That is multiplicative identity. Let's take a look at this one here. 2d plus g equals g plus 2d. So what happened there? Just the order changed. So that's commutative. Okay, let's take a look at this one. H plus 8, or sorry, parentheses h plus 8, close parentheses 3, equals 3h plus 24. This is a tricky one. But the 3, even though it's on this side, was being distributed to the h and to the 8. So 3h and then 3 times 8 is 24. And don't worry if distributive is confusing you. We're going to spend like 3 days on distributive property, so don't worry. Okay, here we have a plus 3 equals 3 plus a. So again, we're just switching the order. That's going to be commutative. This is a big one. 8 plus parentheses b plus 5 equals 8 plus b plus 5. So we have 8b5, 8b5. So the order stayed the same, but what changed? The grouping changed. So here the parentheses are around b and 5, and here it's a and b. So this is going to be associative property. All right, then we have this one here. 6 times g times 8 equals 6 times g times 8. Same order, what's different? The parentheses are in a different spot. Here it's with g and 8, and here it's with 6 and g. So again, that's going to be associative. Okay, 7p minus 35 equals 7 parentheses p minus 5. This is going to be, again, distributive. This 7 is being given to the p and the 5. So here it's 7 is being distributed to the p, so I get 7p. And then 7 is being distributed to the 5, so I have 7 times 5 is 35. And then I saved this guy for last because he is a little tricky. 5 over 5 times 21 is 21. And this one is a little tricky, but if you think about it, it's not too bad. What is 5 over 5 as a fraction? If you think about it, 5 over 5 as a fraction is 1. So 1 times 21 is 21. And so that would be the multiplicative identity. All right, that is it for the properties lesson. We are going to practice properties a lot, but more specifically the distributive property, because we're going to do it backwards, forwards, we're going to incorporate it in all sorts of ways with expressions. So we're going to do lots of practice, but make sure you ask me any questions you have in class.